Hey guys, Patrick here, back with another martial arts story for you, and today I'm going to be talking about the few weeks that I did Taekwondo. Fun fact, this is actually the gi that I wore when I trained Taekwondo for the brief amount of time that I did. I just thought about it and I was like, did I ever throw this out? And I looked at my closet and I didn't remember ever throwing it out, and surprisingly enough, yeah, I found it. Also, when I initially put on the belt, I was confused because I was like, first of all, I don't remember earning any stripes. I guess I did, because this is the belt that was with the gi. And also, when I initially tried to put on the belt, tried to put it on like a jiu-jitsu belt, and I was like, this shit ain't nearly long enough. So I just double knotted it. I'm assuming that's how you're meant to do it. I don't think it looks too bad. Nah. I'm gonna take these off now though, because they're actually quite annoying. So, I decided to join a Taekwondojo, or a Taekwondo dojo. I just say Taekwondojo for shorthand. When I was around 16 or 17 years old. I trained in boxing for a couple of years at this point, and I thought it would help if I was more well-rounded as a fighter if I knew how to kick. So I thought about it, and I was like, well, Taekwondo is like all kicking, so it would probably be very beneficial if I did that as my, kicking style. So I found the closest Taekwondo place that taught near my house, and I signed up. And I was immediately, I guess, confused at the people I saw training there. Because you gotta keep in mind, my experience with martial arts has been pretty much combat sports up to this point. I did boxing for a few years, and then I tried MMA, and I hated it, but that was because of the school. I talked about that in another video. This was the first, traditional martial art that I had, experience with. What I'm getting at is that I looked around the room, and most of the other kids in there were not athletic looking at all. I wouldn't believe them if they told me they exercised at all, let alone practiced fighting. And again, this very much confused me because up to this point, I was used to training with other athletes. The head coach came in, and it was owned by a guy and his son, and they both looked pretty fit, but they took us in for a warm-up, and it was a basic warm-up and stuff like that. And then we had to recite an oath. It was like the oath of the school. And I cannot remember what it is, but I remember every time I was forced to say it, I always felt such a burning, hot embarrassment in my body. Because it was something so corny about, I will defend the weak and innocent when it is my duty to protect them. It was basically that, only it was I'm not joking when I say it was it felt like it was 2 paragraphs long. And you had to say it every day before you started class. And I always just felt so dorky for having to say it, because it made me feel like I was role-playing a superhero rather than training in martial arts. But after we finished our stretching and the paladin's oath, on day 1, he was like, okay, time for our strength and conditioning. And I was interested to see what this pertained to. I can't remember the exact wording of this, but basically what he said is, you know what a good number is? 50. So we're going to do 50 push-ups. And I was like, okay, we're each going to do 50 push-ups. I didn't think of that as much of an exercise. Again, but I'm thinking of it from somebody with a very athletic background. For these kids, it probably would have been a very good exercise. But then he was like, we're gonna take you and separate you into groups of 2, and you're gonna do 50 push-ups together. So now we just went from 50 push-ups to 25 push-ups. And I was immediately thinking, well, that's, again, from my perspective, I was like, well, I didn't think 50 push-ups was much of an exercise. 25 push-ups is I would, back then, I was able to crank out push-ups like that. I didn't even consider that one set. But basically, how he was having us go was, you go down and do as many push-ups as you can, and then when you have to stop and take a break, the other person does their push-ups, back, forth, until you both reach 25 each. And so I was partnered with this one guy, and I dropped down, and I just did 25 push-ups all at once, and I got back up, and I was like, okay, here we go. And he actually, like, gave me, like, a fucking angry look. Like, he was annoyed that he had to do all of his 25 push-ups at once now. And I was just thinking, like, you're here to train, dude. But so then, it was time for us to practice our techniques, which was spin kicks, spinning back kick. And how we were training them was one person held like one of those chest pads, or like they're like one of those kick pads that like basically has like a shield handle, and you can hold it like to your torso like this. One person holds that, and the other person kicks it, and basically you try to get them all the way from one side of the dojo to the other through sheer kicking power. And I think you had to go back and forth, and then trade, and then the other person has to kick you back. And again, my partner hated me for this drill for two reasons. One was because I thought, like, okay, so the point of this drill is to kick as few times as possible. I'm assuming that power is supposed to be a big factor in this. So whenever I kicked him, I did it, I don't want to call it full power, but you know, I did a very powerful kick to him to try and create as much space as possible. And so I literally like just really quickly like back down and forth. And then it was my turn to hold the pad. Well, in my opinion, back when I was training, when I was younger, I thought, you know, you want to make it hard on the other person, because the harder it is for them, the better they'll get. So, you know, I was always somebody who worked out and lifted weights, and I knew how to take an athletic stance. So whenever he kicked me, I would barely move at all, because I knew how to stand to not be knocked back unless he really fucking, boom, unleashed on me. So then we're like maybe 10, 15 kicks deep on him, and I've barely moved at all. And I'm reading the room. I look around, and I see everybody sort of giving me dirty looks. And I'm like, oh, I guess we're not trying to better ourselves here? Okay. So then I just let him kick me from one side of the room back to the other. And that was the end of day one. And I was immediately like, not certain yet how I feel about this dojo. Not super positive so far. But I'll give it a few more days and see how it goes. So then I went back for day two, and the teacher was teaching us how to chop someone in the neck. And I remember he was like explaining it to me like, oh, the reason you want to chop someone in the neck is because there's a nerve right here in your neck. And he like took two fingers like this, and he started like boop, 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 boop. But like I wasn't reacting because I was used to getting punched in the fucking face at this point. So like a little nerve jump in the neck isn't going to make me go, whoa. And so he saw that I wasn't reacting, and so he started he started doing it like pretty much punching me in the fucking neck with his fingers. And he still wasn't getting a reaction out of me. So finally he was like, am I hitting it? And I was like, yeah, I'm just not a wimp. Like that was literally what I replied with without thinking. And he just like kind of and like walked away. Admittedly, I shouldn't have said that. That made me come off as arrogant or cocky. But again, I was just thinking like, that didn't hurt. Why am I going to pretend like it did? But so we practiced neck chops for a bit, and then we moved on to katas. And immediately when we started doing katas, I was like, oh God, kill me. I hate practicing katas. You know, sometimes I think about re-signing up for like Taekwondo or karate just for like the fun of it, just to try it out again. And then I think back and I remember, oh yeah, I hate katas and I will never do them again. But after day 2, I was thinking like, man, I don't think I'm going to come back here. But then that all changed when I looked across the room and I saw this cute fucking girl, my age. I think she was orange belt or something. And I was just like, maybe this ain't too bad. Maybe I'm just not giving this style a fair shake quite yet. Because I was a fucking teenage boy. And you certainly didn't see that many cute girls, at least I didn't, when I was doing boxing and MMA. But here I was like, maybe there is something to this style. So I stuck around another week or 2, I want to say. We practiced like with foam nunchucks and shit, and I was like, oh god. Because keep in mind, I was here to like specifically learn how to kick for like kickboxing purposes practically. Not that I was thinking about competing in kickboxing, but just to make myself a more well-rounded fighter. Like I wanted more practical application of kicking techniques so that, if I had to kick or if someone kicked me, I wouldn't be surprised by it. Those were my initial intentions for coming to this school. And every time that we did katas and nunchuck training and kamas, I think those are like the little sights on the stick, little kama training and chopping to the neck and shit like that, I was just thinking, when are we going to get to the kicking? I thought this style was like literally just kicking. So then I remember the turning point was one day. It was quite literally everything I hated training-wise in a day. So there were very few people here that day. I think there were quite literally only 2 students and 2 teachers. And so that meant that I couldn't fake saying the cringy paladin oath this time, like when you're in a school choir and you just sort of mouth along, but you don't actually know the words. That's what I was kind of doing for the past couple of weeks. I couldn't get by doing that this time. I actually had to say the paladin's oath. And by the way, you have to say it at the beginning and end of class too, every single time. I mean, every time it just cringed me out so much. I just felt so much embarrassment. But so I actually had to say it. And when I said it, I said it like, I do hereby solemnly swear to protect the weak and the innocent and the downtrodden from the evils of the world. And they were like, no, Patrick, you have to say it with more feeling. You have to say it with passion. You have to yell it. And I was like, oh God, do I fucking have to? Like, really, do I have to though? And so then I tried saying it like, I hereby solemnly swear. And they're like, no, you have to yell it. You have to yell it. And I'm like, oh. And so, probably extremely red-faced, I embarrassingly yelled the fucking paladin's oath. I hereby solemnly swear to protect the weak and the innocent and the downtrodden from the evils of this world. Us! And they're like, yes, Patrick, yes, just like that. I'm like, oh God, kill me now. I'm so glad no one is here to see this. Jesus Christ. But so then after they had me do that, I then was introduced to a new kata. Oh boy, my favorite. They pulled me aside, and my instructor for that day was a woman. And she was showing me this stuff. I can't remember exactly. But I just remember it was more stuff I didn't care about. I just want to learn kicking techniques. I don't care about nunchucks or katas or sais or saying the paladin's oath. And so then I talked to this woman, and I'm like, yo, I'm not gonna lie. I thought that we were gonna be, training to fight more than doing all this extra stuff. And she looked at me and she said, and I liked how she called it straight with me, because she looked at me and she said, we're more artsy than martial here. Like, she straight up told me, I get what you're looking for. I'm sorry this was not it. If you want something like that, I would suggest joining a Kaju Kembo school or a kickboxing gym. And after she said that, I thanked her for her honesty on that, and we finished out class. And I think if I remember right, because there was so little time left in class, she was just like, "Here, let's just go over what you want to. Let's just go over what you want to learn." So she was like, "Oh, here's like some snapping front kicks and some round kicks and all that stuff." And then after class, I made sure to scream the Paladin's Oath at the top of my fucking lungs so that I did not have to repeat it 3 or 4 times like I did at the beginning of class. And then I left and I never came back. Would I ever do Taekwondo again? Probably not. Again, I hate katas. I just hate them. I mean, the rest of it is fine. It's whatever. But me personally, I'm at a stage right now in my martial arts training where I kind of only care about jiu-jitsu. And it's not even because I want something that's like, oh, it's practical in a street fight or whatever. It's not even for that purpose. It's that I just love jiu-jitsu in particular. You know, I've trained in many martial arts styles, and I can honestly say that none of them has engrossed me the same way jiu-jitsu has. And so as a result, yeah, I'll train a day in like Taekwondo or a day in boxing or a day in kickboxing or whatever. If one of my other friends is like, "Hey Pat, do you want to come with me to my kickboxing class or whatever?" I'll be like, "Yeah, sure, whatever. I don't care. Sounds fun." But as far as like what I wish to continue on my own in my own time, furthering my martial arts education, I guess you could call it, is just jiu-jitsu. That's just where my passion lies as far as martial arts is concerned nowadays. But that's been my story. Alright guys, let me know what you thought about it down in the comments, especially if you ever did Taekwondo. I'm very interested to hear what you think about my experiences. I'm Patrick, and I'll see you next time.